Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today we're going to be joining Marrakesh in the USS Vermont, the Tier 10, actually one of two, with the other one being the Montana. Well, okay, there's the Ohio as well, but that doesn't count as a premium. Okay, fine. One of three US Navy Tier 10 battleships. Now, I need to be upfront here. I really don't like the Vermont very much. That doesn't mean it's a bad ship. It just means I don't like it. There are far too many people who don't seem to understand the distinction there. I'll say this ship is shit. People will say, no, it isn't. I like it. Well, that doesn't mean it isn't shit. That just means that you like it. You see this phenomenon an awful lot in the music business. For example, Kylie Minogue was shit, but she sold an awful lot of records. That doesn't mean that she was good. It just means that there are an awful lot of people out there who are extraordinarily easily pleased when it comes to music. You get this in movies too. Perfect example, the Transformers movies, which are absolute trash, but wildly popular. And that's fine. It's okay to like things that are objectively bad. World of Warships live streamer, Mr. McCavity, loves the British Tier 5 light cruiser, HMS Emerald. And it is utter garbage. I'm a big fan of the TOG 2 in World of Tanks. But I'm not under any illusions that it's a good tank. See, that's the difference. It's okay to like things that are bad. Just don't try to pretend that they're good. The Vermont, however, isn't actually bad. It's exceptionally good in a number of categories. And it's exceptionally bad in others, mostly the mobility. This is a Tier 10 battleship with a top speed of 23 knots and a concealment range of 18 kilometers. She also has a very high citadel. Extremely vulnerable to taking citadel hits when broadside, and she has a massive freeboard, i.e. the amount of ship that sits above the waterline before you get to the weather deck, which means that she's prone to taking extremely large chunks of armor-piercing damage, even if she doesn't get citadeled. She also has a 40-second reload on her main battery guns. That's the bad news. The good news, and there is good news, is that these guns hit extremely hard even if they don't achieve citadels. And they hit ridiculously hard when they do, with each armor-piercing citadel hit delivering more than 15,000 damage. And she's got 12 of these guns, and they're all 18-inch caliber. That's 3 more than the Yamato. These guns hit really, really hard, and they're quite accurate, particularly if you equip Artillery Plotting Room Mod 2. Not only that, but they have a base firing range of 24.5 kilometers, which you can of course extend by using the spotter plane consumable, which Marrakesh is doing right now, hence the elevated gunnery view as he unloads all 12 of these 18-inch guns at the enemy North Carolina on the far side of the map. With, even though those weren't citadels, very satisfying results. The guns on this ship, despite the horrifyingly slow reload, are very, very good. And the armour isn't bad either. In fact, in places it's pretty impressive. She has the standard 32mm bow and stern plating common to Tier 8, 9 and 10 battleships. But her deck armour in places is as thick as 51mm, and to be honest, she really kind of needs that because she is so big, easily spotted, and slow, and therefore finds it difficult to avoid incoming fire, that in order to give her some kind of chance against high explosive spamming cruisers, that 51mm of deck plating, she can still be set on fire, and her superstructure is huge and catches a lot of shots. But she rarely suffers from high explosive plunging fire deck penetrations. She also has a very impressive torpedo belt with 40% torpedo damage reduction, and again, you know, she kind of needs it, because when you're as slow and big as this, you're probably one of the biggest torpedo magnets in the game. Now that submarines, of course, have been introduced into standard battles with their homing torpedoes that bypass not only the laws of reality but also torpedo damage protection and deliver instant citadels, I can only begin to imagine how much fun Vermont captains are having. But that's a topic of conversation for an entirely different video. As it is, the Vermont's torpedo belt does at least provide some very good protection against 2 out of the 3 traditional enemies of large slow battleships, destroyers and aircraft carriers. It is hard to get around that 23 knot top speed though. I mean, even if you equip a speed flag, that's only an extra 5%, and 5% of shit is still shit, so you kind of have to play the ship accordingly. What this means is that typically you'll find Vermont captains cruising around the middle of the map, which gives them an even chance of actually being able to react to anything that occurs anywhere other than in the middle of the map. So what Malakesh is doing here is actually kind of risky, because he's heavily committing to one side. To be fair, looking at the dispositions of the 2 teams, this doesn't actually appear to be too terrible an idea right now. But deciding to commit or not is something that you tend to have to do early. Because if you dither around trying to make your mind up which way to go at the beginning of a battle, by the time you find out that you are actually needed somewhere, it's usually too late for you to get there, because the ship is so incredibly slow. The flip side of that, of course, is that if you do make the decision to commit to one side or the other based on the best available information that you had at the beginning of the match when you made the decision, and it turns out to be the wrong decision, it can take an awful long time for you to relocate and get to somewhere where you can actually do some good, at which point the outcome of the battle very often will already have been decided in your absence. And that means that in order to play the Vermont effectively, either the enemy team have to be really, really accommodating towards your intentions, or you have to be extraordinarily good at reading the map early on in the battle, something that I am very not extraordinarily good at, and is the main reason why I don't like the Vermont. Not because it's bad, it isn't. It's because I'm bad. The burning question on everybody's lips, of course, is, has Malakesh made the right decision? Well, I guess time will tell. There are certainly no shortage of enemy ships over on this side of the map, but there are also no shortage of friendly ships over on this side of the map. And again, this is something that can go both ways. It can work in your favour and also to your disadvantage. Because on the one hand, there are plenty more targets over here for the enemy team to shoot at other than him, giving him more time to put his guns to work and actually make a difference, something that he is about to do in pretty spectacular fashion. And there's the double strike. Which has also activated the untraceable talent, which means he's running William Halsey as his commander, and, well, double strikes are fairly rare. You don't often see the untraceable talent in action. What that's done is reduced his detection radius by 10%, which means that his terrible 14.2 kilometre surface detection has dropped down to a not terrible 13 kilometres. Now there's a whole bunch of torpedoes coming in. Fortunately, these are not submarine torpedoes, so his torpedo damage reduction is actually going to help. Plus, he's only going to take one of them. The enemy Montana, who got way too close, is turning away, and he's caught him in the broadside there with a double citadel for a lot of damage. The enemy Harlem has hit him with an airstrike because, well, you know, big slow targets. But because he'd already used the damage control to control the flooding caused by the torpedo hit, the airstrike, which did minimal damage, didn't also cause any debilitating fires. He's managed to spank the broadside of the Montana again, although not for a citadel this time. And then just as he was about to repeat the process with his rear turrets, the Montana managed to go undetected. So, shots out against the Petropavlovsk. Unfortunately, no damage. The Montana pops up again, and I believe he's still giving broadside. But hang on a second. Harlem is basically stationary, and these are very, very accurate guns, and that's a cruiser. Shots out. Disappointing, but still, 8,000 damage is 8,000 damage. Now, there's been an awful lot of ships sunk in the last couple of minutes. Both teams have basically lost half of their fighting force. And what you're seeing Malakesh doing here is something that's not terribly uncommon for Vermont captains, thanks to that horrible 40-second reload. First he spanks the Harlem and gets himself the Citadel, very nice, with 2 of the turrets. And then he waits 20 seconds, and he uses the other 2 turrets. This allows you to at least get your guns firing every 20 seconds or so, rather than having to wait 40 seconds between shots. It also gives you a bit of flexibility, allowing you to switch between targets, like the Montana here, who apparently did not learn his lesson from the spanking he received the first time. So Malakesh is going to give him the spanking the second time as well. And there it is. Holy shit, yeah. What Malakesh is not going to do, however, is swing his arse out to get the rear turrets firing, because that is precisely what the Montana is waiting for. If the Montana wants to shoot, he's going to have to shoot at an angled target, so Malakesh can take it on the belt. Instead, he uses the rear turrets on the Harlem without exposing himself unnecessarily. This is exactly the sort of thing I'm talking about. It kills the Harlem, and then waiting for the front turrets to reload, goes for the superstructure shot on the Montana, which does a disappointing amount of damage, but he's not going to take damage from the Montana. The Montana's 16-inch guns cannot overmatch his bows, his 18-inch guns cannot overmatch the Montana's bows, but he's not the only one shooting at the Montana. The Montana's best chance right now is to go for a ram and hope to take Malakesh with him. This is an occasion where the Vermont's extraordinarily bad speed is actually working in Malakesh's favour, because it means the Montana will go down to support fire from the rest of Malakesh's team before he gets close enough. This is perhaps the one and only occasion where I'm able to say with a straight face that the horrifically poor speed of the Vermont was actually good for something. Although, to be completely fair, I don't know if you noticed, but Malakesh was actually working the throttle on the Vermont to ensure that the Montana stood absolutely no chance of getting anywhere near him. So, Malakesh has crushed his enemies, driven them before him, and is right now enjoying listening to the lamentation of their women. The only problem is, he's now a good 24 kilometers away from the nearest enemy ship. This is the problem that you're going to have even if you're doing well in the Vermont. Fortunately, the guns do have a very respectable base 24.5 kilometer range, and with the use of the Spotting aircraft you can extend that by a further 20%. And they are very accurate, which means that providing you at least have somebody spotting the remaining enemy targets for you when there's a clear line of fire, you can still make your presence felt even from the other side of the map. And there's the high caliber award with 213,000 damage done. And he's going to need to continue to make his presence felt even from all the way over here, because despite the fact that the team are 2 kills up, they're nearly 100 points behind, because the enemy team hold 2 of the capture circles to Malakesh's team's 1. Which means they're going to need to either flip some of those cap circles and preferably also sink some more enemy ships. Fortunately, the 2 destroyers on the team do appear to know what they're doing. The friendly Yugamo is heading north to flip the cap at Alpha, and the friendly Shimakaze is hopefully keeping his distance and not trying to do anything stupid, while keeping at least 2 of the remaining 3 enemy ships spotted, and honestly a kill on any one of them should be enough to flip the points, at least momentarily, in the team's advantage. And the Yugamo is now flipping the cap at Alpha, so that's good. Unfortunately, it's probably the enemy Wukong who's busy flipping the cap at Charlie. Malakesh continues to narrowly avoid sinking the Grosser Curve first. The friendly Harlem finally appears to have realised that it's not a good idea to just gift a kill to the enemy at this stage of the game, and the friendly Kansas actually manages to pick up a kill. I'm fairly sure that's probably going to result in the captain of the Grosser Curve first submitting an official complaint to customer support, because, as we all know, the USS Kansas is an utterly terrible ship and isn't allowed to kill anything. I mean, I don't like the Vermont very much, but I admit that it is a fairly good ship. The USS Kansas, on the other hand, not so much. I think if we were to compile a list of the top 10 worst ships in World of Warships, the Kansas would be on the list, and it would probably be in the top 5. It has all of the disadvantages of the Vermont, and pretty much none of the advantages. Same terrible concealment, same terrible speed, none of the increased armour, which means it eats high explosive shells like you wouldn't believe, and while it does have 12 16-inch guns, they would be hard-pressed to hit the broadside of a barn from the inside. So well done to the Kansas, not just... oh shit, that's going to leave a mark. Wow! That Wukong got hit so hard he's going to be taking damage in the next battle. Shit. That just leaves the lion, who is, of course, spamming high explosive, because that's basically what the lion's good for. The Shimakaze is... yeah, this is a foregone conclusion. He's actually... oh, and he's getting broadside. Oh, no. Oh, this is going to sting. Yeah. No citadels, but he's knocked out a gun turret and given him one hell of a spanking. Do you think we can break 300,000 damage in this game? And sink the lion? Come on, Malakesh, you need a Kraken. I think you've earned it. Oh, and the lion is continuing to give broadside. Oh, this is going to be spicy. HMS Lion. British Tier 9 battleship. It's like an armadillo. Crunchy on the outside, but oh so chewy on the inside. Kraken Unleashed, double strike, high caliber, Confederate, 2 devastating strikes, and with the 48, nearly 49,000 damage that was gifted to him very generously by the lion, that puts him on a damage total of 322,562. Personally, at this point, I think he's just showing off. And I hope you enjoyed it, because that's it for today. As always, folks, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.